February 5th, 2025. This is the second part of World War I. So we're going to be talking about the different countries and areas of the world that were affected by World War I and or were happening at the same time. And so we're going to backdate a little bit of stuff and then forward date a little bit of stuff, and now I'm just making up words. Alright, so we ended here with the Treaty of Versailles, and it wasn't good for Germany. So that was where we ended in the last video. So, new video, right? We've got a whole bunch of countries out there that are looking at Europe. And so here's Africa. And we've got interesting, a lot of colors going on. The British in pink, and the French in purple, and the Germans in gray. And basically all of Africa is claimed, right? So the Africans, they're looking at this war. And they're saying, now wait a second, we've been told all of our lives for the past several hundred years that the Europeans are morally and ethically superior to us. So why are they keep trying to kill each other? That's not morally and ethically superior. That's no. So a lot of these African countries are going to look at World War I saying, maybe we don't want to be part of y'all. So this is where this is all going to start happening. So we've got a lot of things going on. After the war, both France and Britain, and for that matter Portugal, and for that matter Germany, they're going to go back on some of the treaties that they had with the African tribes. A lot of things are going to happen. Socio and economic reasons. It's just, well, let's get to them, right? Okay. So, independence movements. And we're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 we're going to talk about right here. The key themes. 1. Independence movements generally are led by Western educated elites. People who are educated in Europe that learn all about freedom and liberty and all that kind of stuff. And then they go back to their home countries, to the colonies, and then they start spreading the news. And so this is a key movement. These leaders generally are very charismatic, which means they look really good in front of the camera, and they have really good voices that can carry to large crowds, and they have really good messages. And so very charismatic. And then we're also going to see, kind of interesting here, some of these leaders are going to push for independence, non-violent independence. So we'll see how that works out. So let's start with India. Okay, so India being the crown jewel, right, of the British Empire, the subcontinent of Asia, India with all those people and all that cotton and all those spices. And India is going to start thinking, maybe we don't want to be part of the British Empire anymore. So we're going to start here with a group called the Indian National Congress Party. So basically, it was a bunch of, how do I want to say it? It's kind of like a stucco at the high school. The leadership class, the key club, a group of students who get together and they're like, hey, here's what we should do. We can come up with really cool ideas, and then we can send those ideas off to the British government, and maybe they'll listen to us, and maybe we can show the British government some things that they're not really paying attention to because they're way over on the other side of the world, and so maybe we can help out. And so these groups that basically started in schools, they're going to start to expand. And yes, it's the elite kids, it's the rich kids, it's the kids that have the money, and they're going to expand these clubs, and ultimately they're going to form basically kind of almost like a political party. They're going to, the British are going to recognize the political party, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll listen to you, we'll listen to your suggestions. They didn't listen to their suggestions, and the Indian National Congress Party quickly realized the British aren't listening to us. We need to get the British people's attention. How can we do that? How can we do that? Some problems in India here. We have Muslim and Hindu. And for the past 500, 600, 700 years, everybody's been getting along, kind of. But it's all really starting to come to a boil here in the late 1800s, in the late 19th century. If you recall, now let's just talk about religion. If you recall, the Hindus, the top of the triangle, you have the cow, right? The sacred animal, the cow, and well, there you go. And then you have the Muslims, and Muslims who do not have, the cow is not sacred, the cow is food. So you have one group, 25% of the people, who are eating the sacred animal of the other 75% of the people. And we know this is not going to bode well. In fact, here we are in 2025, that's still not boding well. All right, so we're going to have some guys who are going to come out of this, who are going to lead India to independence. First of all, we've got BG here, BG Tilak. He was a teacher, and he taught his students, a high school teacher, then went out and then college. He founded his own school, and in his teachings, he would talk about liberty and fraternity and equality and independence. And well, there you go. Good for him. Oh, yeah, he thought that women were less than, and so he didn't want women to go to school. Not good for him. Regardless, after he taught many years, he decided he was going to get into politics. He was going to go. He got into writing with a newspaper. He founded his own newspaper. He got himself in trouble. In fact, he was arrested several times for sedition. Sedition means that you're writing anti-government articles. Probably the most famous one was that there was a group of terrorists, and they had a couple of bombs, and they were throwing the bombs at some government officials, and unfortunately the bombs missed the government officials and killed a couple of women. And BG here, he wrote an article in his newspaper, and he said, you know what, I support the terrorists because yes, they had bad aim, and yeah, a couple of women died, but they were trying to kill the government. And come on, you gotta give him props for that. And so he was arrested for that. In fact, he was sentenced to jail for a while because of that. His lawyer wasn't very happy. Regardless, BG, because of that article, BG is going to be known as the founder of basically India independence movement, military independence movement. He's going to push for some interesting things as a leader and as a newspaper editor. At one point, India said, hey, you know what, we're going to raise the minimum age of women getting married. They had a law that said you could force girls to marry. I'm going to say that again. You could force girls to marry 10 years old. 10 years old. The government decided to push that to 12 years old and make it 12 years old. And BG, he wrote an article that said, no, let's keep it at 10 years old. Golly. And there's some awful things that happened because of that, which I'm not going to go into. He was anti-women's education. He was okay with the sati. Remember the women throwing themselves onto the funeral pyre and killing themselves. He was okay with that. Lots of things. BG was big into pushing Hindu festivals. You know, the Hindus have hundreds of gods, and depending on the day, there's probably a festival. And so he pushed these festivals to get more and more converts into Hinduism. That was his goal. Ultimately, he was in prison for all his writings and his philosophies. Okay, so because of his writings, we're going to have a group of terrorists that are going to come out there, and so we've got some here right there, based in Bengal. Bengal is at this point is a state inside India, and then they're going to become independent here a little bit, and they are going to acquire lots of guns over there. The Hindu terrorists, they bombed British buildings, they carried out political assassinations, and they were essentially, after World War I, Britain came in and kind of tried to drop the hammer on that. Okay, and so if you think about World War I, India supplied a lot of troops, a lot of manpower, and a lot of cotton to the war for Britain, and so that was a boon, which means a positive for Britain, India's participation. However, for India, it was not a boon, it was a negative, because Britain is pulling them into a war with Germany, and that's not cool, right? And so, obviously during war, you've got wartime inflation, we have blockades by the German ships, we've got a lot of things that are going on here that the Indians were not right. That's the whole point of war. Okay, so let me get this guy. Mohandas Gandhi. Mohandas Gandhi. Sometimes you'll see him as Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma is actually a South African word, which means somebody who has a deep soul, an old soul. Mahatma. So that's a title, Mahatma Gandhi, but his name is Mohandas. So Mohandas is he's a civil rights lawyer, and he comes from an elite family. He's rich, but he sees some of this crazy stuff going on in India, and he decides that he's going to become the guy. And so he takes off his business suit and he puts on the famous white wrap that he wears. If it's female, it's called sari, right? I can't think of what it is for a male, but anyway, so he puts on his big white, toga-looking thing, and his little bitty glasses, and he basically makes himself out to be this ascetic, this guru that people see. So he intentionally shows himself as somebody who is poor, somebody who is constantly going on hunger strikes, somebody who is with the people, with the rabble. And so people are attracted to this. They're attracted to this. Now he's smart. Like I said, a civil rights lawyer. He's smart, and so he's going to push some ideas. He's read his history. He understands. Oh, hey, taxation, no representation, kind of stuff, right? So he's going to fight against the salt tax. We didn't have a salt tax in American history. We had that tea tax. What happened then? The salt tax, and so Gandhi led the march against the salt tax. It was 250 miles across the and so there you go. But he's going to push for non-violent intervention against the British. And so, for example, peaceful boycotts. A boycott is when you choose not to buy British goods, and that way British people aren't making any money. And so that's called a boycott. He called for strikes, so people would not go to work. He called for non-cooperation with the authorities. He called for mass demonstrations, but not violent demonstrations, and sit-ins and hunger strikes and things like that. So this is Gandhi. Gandhi he is a Hindu, but he is going to try to make overtures, peaceful overtures with the Muslims, and that's going to get him in trouble because a couple of his followers are going to be upset with him making positive overtures towards the Muslims, and they are going to actually assassinate him, 3 bullets, bang, 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 in 1948-ish. Okay, that's India. Let's go to the Middle East. And so let's go to, where are we going to? Well, just the Middle East, right? The haves and the have-nots. Yeah, we've talked about this. the difference between the haves and the have-nots is getting bigger, it's getting wider, and well, there you go. So if we go to Egypt, we're going to have this situation called the the Dinshawai incident in 1906. So there's a group of 5 British soldiers, and they want to go pigeon hunting. So to do this, they're going to walk down this long road in the early morning. This is in Egypt, and it's hot. And these guys are in their big woolen coats, right? And so they're going to walk in the morning when it's nice and cool. They're going to walk down this long road, and they're going to go over to this little bitty village, and they're going to start shooting pigeons for funsies. And the locals, the villagers, say, hey, please don't shoot the pigeons for fun, because it's our source of food. Please stop shooting the pigeons. And so these guys are using buckshot. So it's not single, it's just buckshot. And so the villagers get upset, and a group of them approach these soldiers and say, no, please stop shooting the pigeons. Well, depending on who you believe, whether it was intentional or not, one of the British soldiers' guns fired and hit 4 or 5 people with the buckshot, ultimately killing one of the women. So the crowd, not very happy with that. The crowd becomes menacing, and they start smacking around these soldiers. One of the soldiers, he gets up and he flees. Now, this is now in the late morning, in the early afternoon, and he's trying to run back across the road in his heavy woolen coat, and it's the hot sun, and so he doesn't make it. He actually, now we're thinking he probably died of heat stroke. So he falls over with heat stroke, dies, and as the more British troops are coming down the road, they see one of the villagers who saw the guy fall over. One of the villagers ran over there to the guy and was turning him over and was like, hey buddy, are you okay, are you okay, are you okay? The new troops show up, and they see this villager who's with a dead British guy, and so they just assume that the villager killed the guy, and now this guy gets killed, the villager gets killed, and the whole thing gets out of hand. Well, the British decide that they're going to drop the hammer on this village. They're going to cite some really old rules, some very old laws, and 52 people are going to be tried. 3 people are going to be, they had 52 witnesses, basically the 52 people who were tried. They each got to testify. They did all 52 witnesses in a total of 35 minutes. So if you're sitting here thinking, they did, wow, 52 people testified in 35 minutes? That's how legit this kangaroo court was. Yes, kangaroo court. That's an interesting term right there. This kangaroo court, and so 3 of them were immediately hanged. In fact, they were building the scaffold where the guys were going to be hanged. They were building it during the trial. Yeah, that's not cool. 3 of them were hanged. 10 of them were 10 of them ish were sentenced to 50 lashings. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So, what is this one incident? It's just this little bitty village. No, it's not. Well, it is. But we can see what's going to happen, right? This is kind of one of those things. This is a catalyst. So then other Egyptian villages find out about this. Other small towns find out about this. And now larger towns find out about this. And now cities find out about this. And now the people of Egypt are upset with the British. And now the British are going to have to respond. And so they're going to have to drop the hammer even harder to keep the people from... Okay. So let's talk about the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire doesn't exist anymore. No longer on the map. It broke up because all the different little pieces all kind of became independent, right? So we have the Greeks. The Greeks are going to basically take back Greece, and then Macedonia and Bulgaria is going to become independent. Romania is going to become independent, and then you've got Egypt's going to become independent, and Turkey is going to have a new guy. His name is Mustafa. Excuse me, Mustafa Kemal. We call him Ataturk, and he's going to rally. He's going to rally the Turkish people against the Greeks who are trying to invade. The last time the Greeks invaded Turkey was like, what was that? No, that was the Iliad. Homer, the Iliad. Yeah, there's a great. You should read a book about that. He's going to lead. Ataturk's going to become the new president of Turkey, and we're not going to call it the Ottoman Empire anymore. He's going to change. He's going to make some sweeping changes. We're going to go from the Arabic alphabet. We're going to bring in the Latin alphabet. He's going to introduce this crazy concept of women's suffrage. Suffrage means the right to vote. So he's going to bring in this idea that women should be able to vote. I mean, right? Good for him. And he's going to attempt to secularize the nation. The word secularize means to take the religion out of the government. Okay. He's got a little quote down here. Teachers are the one and only people who save nations. If only we got paid to do that. Okay. Next subject. Palestine. Here we go. Okay. Well, here's the short version. Palestine has a history that goes way back. And there's several groups of people in Palestine, including Jews and Muslims are the two biggest groups right there. And so Palestine is a Muslim territory. This whole area, so we're talking about Jerusalem, we're talking about Tel Aviv, we're talking about the holy places in the Bible. And so this is the area that was fought over during the Crusades. Okay, now we're on the same page. So, Britain makes an interesting decision in 1917. Britain basically owns Palestine through a series of land grabs and colonization. And so Britain makes some, in 1917, they make this declaration called the Balfour Declaration. Guys, this is muy importante. I'm going to read it. It says this. His Majesty's government view with, I'm going to read it. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. Okay, guys, this is a big deal right here. The Balfour Declaration basically says, hey, we're going to see if we can take part of Palestine and we're going to maybe carve out a little area for the Jewish people. And we're not doing this to irritate non-Jewish people, i.e. the Muslims, but we want to give the Jewish people a homeland. So we're going to start working towards that. That's the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration does not say from this land to this land to that sea. No. The Balfour Declaration basically just says we're going to start making plans for having a Jewish state. And yes, this is going to irritate a whole bunch of people. All right, the Zionist movement. So Zionism. The Jewish people trace their history. In my head, I'm like, wow, where do you even start with that, right? The Jewish people trace their history all the way back to Abraham. Yeah, right. That Abraham, the one in the Bible, Abraham, like on page 3 of the Bible. Is it page 3? It might be. No, it might be like page 2 of the Bible. So like way, way back, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and then you've got the 12 tribes and. Wow, where do you even begin? But that's how far back the Jewish people trace, and of course, then we're talking about the land of Israel, and so which, for the purposes of the last slide, they're calling Palestine, which is owned by the Muslims, and so the Jews throughout history have been pushed out of their homeland. And so we call that the diaspora. The diaspora. Do I have that word? Oh, right there. Look at that. I've got the word. Diaspora, wandering the world for thousands of years. And so the Jewish people have been pushed into Europe. They've been pushed into Africa. They've been pushed into Asia. They've been pushed everywhere. And so the Balfour Declaration, written by Britain, said maybe we need to make a little bitty piece of land and call it the Jewish state. We'll call it Israel, like it said in the Bible. We're going to call it Israel, and we're just going to we're going to put it right back where they all, and everybody's going to be happy. And in the year 2025, on February 5th, let's see, yesterday, President Donald Trump had the president of Israel visit. Today he's having the president of, is it Egypt, and the Palestinian leader, and all visiting Washington D.C. That's right, guys. We're still arguing this. We're still dealing with, okay, who owns what little bitty section? We've got the Gaza Strip. We've got the West Bank. We've got the, okay. More on this later. We continue with the Jewish diaspora. In 1894, so this is before World War I, in France, we had a situation where there was a Jewish captain, French captain Alfred Dreyfus, and he was accused of sending. He was the Benedict Arnold of France, and he's going to send plans and send information to the evil Germans, and he's going to get caught as a spy, and so he's going to be tried and he's going to be convicted of being a spy for the Germans. Now he's Jewish, and like, so he's a spy. No, that's a big deal, because he was Jewish. A lot of people think, well, maybe he didn't get a fair shake in the trial, that when it came out that he was a Jew, the people were like, oh, he's guilty. There were a lot of people. This basically fractured France kind of down the middle with regard to who supported and who didn't support. So, for example, do I have the name of this person? There's several, you think I've written down. There are several, oh, right there, Emile Zola. There are famous writers that were pro Dreyfus and saying no, he didn't get a fair shake. Claude Monet, did you get Monet? Claude Monet, very famous painter. He was in favor of Dreyfus. But then you had other people. Jules Verne, famous writer, French writer, Jules Verne. Can you name any of Jules Verne's books? Well, I hope you can. He was anti-Dreyfus, and so we've got a lot. It split, it fractured, and then interestingly enough, he was in jail for a while, and then they caught the real spy. It turns out it wasn't him, and then that caused all sorts of problems in France. And here's the whole point down here. An Austria-Hungary journalist, that'd be Austria-Hungarian journalist, Theodor Herzl, argued, quote, if not France, where is this going to begin? Where is this going to begin for the Jewish people? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Where are we going to put the Jewish people? The state of Israel, Balfour Declaration. Guys, it all comes together, you'll see. Okay. All right, so the Balfour Declaration, and here we have this artist, and he's a cartoonist, and he's got the Jewish star, Zionism, that's the Star of David, stuck in his back. Apparently, it killed him. When the Arabs complained to the British and said, "Hey, you can't give the Jewish people, no, this is our land, we won it fair and square way back in 1300 against the Europeans with the Crusades. No, this is our land." And the British government said, oh, yeah, maybe we see what you're saying. And then the Jewish people were like, what? No, we own the land, like, all the way back on page 2 of the Bible. No. So it's ours. And by the way, if you are anti-Jewish, that makes you anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism, not cool. And so then the British government was like, oh, yeah. Okay, well maybe we don't know what to think. Well, here's the deal. Ultimately, the Jewish people are going to get what they want in 1948. That we're going to get the land of Israel, right there on the map. More on that later. Okay, and then here's our penultimate slide, Africa. So again, from our first slide, Africa is, they're looking at all the supposed moral majority, and well, that's a whole other thing. The moral and the ethical superiority. There's the word I'm looking for. Moral majority is 1980s United States, something else. Moral superiority, ethical superiority of the Europeans, and so the Africans are saying, no, maybe we should independence, maybe, and so we have this thing called the Pan-African movement. The Pan-African movement. So Pan means all, and so the Pan-Africa, the idea that all the Africans, they're going to get together and they're going to declare independence, and it's all going to be great and wonderful. And notice what it says: the Pan-African movement is begun by African Americans. So not even really Africans, we're talking about African Americans. So Booker T, Dr. Du Bois, ultimately down the road Malcolm X, this group, they're going to be pushing for a Pan-African independence movement. And there you go. I wonder how well that's going to work out. Well, stay tuned, true believers. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode. Okay, there's your themes. If we go all the way back to World War I, a video ago, well, let's see, economy. Oh, there's a whole bunch of economy stuff. Gender, social, government, ideas, human versus environment. You know what? And technology. Almost all of those you can answer with trench warfare. Almost all of those. Maybe not gender, social. There's this one time that they called it Christmas truce, and the story talks about how the German officers in the trenches and the German and British soldiers, they called a Christmas truce, and they came out of their trenches in this one really small part of the war, and they played soccer. And then the next day they went back and they started shooting each other. So that'd be social? That'd be social. Okay, guys, short video, and now we're done. All right, be good. Be good.